From tornadoes to hurricanes, blizzards, and everything in between, you're listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. The Stormfront Freaks are former television meteorologist Mark Massaro, atmospheric science graduate and Skywarn storm spotter Brady Harris, digital meteorologist and weather producer on the Weather Channel app Dina Knightley, former on-camera meteorologist at the Weather Channel Kim Cunningham, and I'm your announcer and Skywarn Network coordinator Mark Johnson. Now, here's the moderator of the Stormfront Freaks podcast, Skywarn storm spotter and chaser Phil Johnson.
Hey, welcome everybody to the most entertaining weather podcast on your listening and viewing device. You're watching and listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. It's brought to you by Extreme Tornado Tours. They're the world's most popular storm chase tour company, and they are the exclusive chase tour of the Stormfront Freaks. The 2020 schedule is now online, and actually seats are already starting to fill, and I think it has to do with all the storm activity we're getting right now, but visit extremetornadotours.com to go ahead and make sure you get a seat and get all the details. If you happen to be a first-time listener this evening, thanks for stopping by. Be sure to go to stormfrontfreaks.com, access our library of previous shows and famous guests from the weather industry like ABC's Ginger Z and the Weather Channel's Jen Carfagno. Tonight, we're recording episode 77 as part of our Coast to Coast with Your Favorite TV Meteorologist series. We have got Denver's very own homegrown, and I get this. So KDVR 31 and KWGN 2. Mm-hmm. So she's not only on one, but she's on two stations. But Jessica LaBelle is joining us tonight. So thanks for joining us, Jessica. We're also going to be playing, of course, our lightning round game with her. And we've got our exclusive tracker chat and tornado talk segments. And of course, we'll finish with our infamous hashtag WeatherFools and WX resources. So before we get to all of that, let's go ahead and introduce our co-host tonight. It's always happy hour when we record. And so poning on up to the Stormfront Freaks bar, I hope you join us. But I'm going to start with our intern up at Ohio State University, Morgan. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, currently I am sipping on that sweet, sweet LaCroix passion fruit. Is the flavor sweet of the night. And
no sugar, though.
I'll break into the 5 a.m. Saint by Brewdog. He said more sugar.
There's no sugar.
No
right?
sugar. Yeah.
So how's it
okay,
sweet?
I was about to say there's
sweet.
Sweet,
That's false
sweet
advertising.
as in
false advertising.
So you're doing water and then beer? Is that what you're doing?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Beer before whiskey type thing?
Very interesting. All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the man that's also having dinner here while we're doing the show. But MJ, what are you drinking with your fine dinner this evening?
Thank you. Tonight, what's in Mark's refrigerator or MJ's refrigerator is Finnegan's Irish Ale. So we got that tonight.
Oh, nice.
Nice. I want to know what he's eating.
Delicious.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
What are you eating?
Corned beef.
Taquitos.
Taquitos.
Okay. Frozen?
I just had a tamale.
Yeah.
There you go.
I haven't had a tamale in years.
Hey, it's Cinco de Mayo's coming up, so
That's right.
celebrate
It's the
that.
day I graduate.
All right, Maz.
Oh.
Maz, here we go. What are you drinking?
Okay, so I'm not doing LaCroix tonight. I'm doing
I know it's still
Hanson's.
Lent, so.
Oh, yeah, I got 2 more days or 3 more days. Hanson's Sparkling since 1935 Lime Spark. It's actually pretty good. It's I don't know. There it is. Sorry.
All right.
So I don't know. It's good.
Wait a minute.
Good.
Did you give up alcohol for Lent?
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Kim.
How long have you been gone? Since like
Wow.
Well, on
It's
that
been a
note,
month.
Kim,
It's
on
been a
that note,
month.
what are you drinking? Thanks for
I sure didn't
coming
give up
back.
alcohol. Yeah.
You were smart.
No. I quit giving up things for Lent. I do things for Lent instead. Like
Good
I
for you.
switch over to wine.
Oh,
No,
well, that's
I'm
good.
drinking. I'm drinking Oak Grove. It's a red blend, and I just bought this, and so I'm kind of tasting, see if I like it or not. But it's out of California, so it's good.
Very
That's
good.
me. Red wine.
All right, and then I know Jessica is in our virtual green room. What was in the fridge? What are you drinking, Jessica?
I got a canned Moscow Mule. I don't have
Okay.
the copper mug. I wish I
Canned.
did.
It looks copper. It looks like a copper can.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
I know. Isn't that fun that they made it that way?
That is kind of cool. All right, well,
What's
let's
in
Kim.
that?
Pretty good.
Wait,
What's
what's in
in
a
it?
Moscow Mule?
It's like ginger beer and vodka with some
Oh.
lime.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
That's
Cool.
good. All right, hey
And
Kim,
Yeah.
Yes.
go ahead and let everybody know about Jessica.
Alrighty. Okay, here we go. All right, so Jessica LaBelle is joining us here from Colorado. She's a meteorologist for KDVR 31. And as we heard, also for KWGN2 out of Denver. Now, she's a meteorologist for both of these stations. It's her native state. She was born in Denver, Colorado. And after stints in Grand Junction and Colorado Springs, she returned to Denver in 2017. Now, she earned a bachelor's degree in atmospheric science from the University of Kansas with an emphasis in news media forecasting. That's so cool they put those things together. You know, I think, Jessica, especially for somebody in television, I mean, this is the best way to go. So let me ask you this. What made you choose University of Kansas versus, let's say, somewhere in Colorado?
Oh, great question. So CU and CSU don't have undergrad meteorology programs. So I knew I wanted a big state school. I wanted the big college sports, the whole experience. So I looked at schools around the area that were close, and KU was one of them. I toured University of Nebraska.
Yes.
I applied to Mizzou. And when I went to KU, I just fell in love with it. It's only about a 9-hour drive from me here in Denver. The atmospheric science program there is very small. I only graduated with about 8 people, but I loved it. I know. And in the heart of really Tornado Alley, that's something I also really loved. So I really enjoyed my time there.
It's a beautiful campus.
Oh, gorgeous. I went there, I think in the fall, and it was just fantastic. They have the fountains going, and everything was just really beautiful. And so, yeah, I'm really happy I chose that.
That's awesome. Did you chase when you were out there?
Yes. So a lot of kids, it was very common for us to ask our teacher to get out a few minutes early to go chase. I only went a few times. We usually went down towards the Wichita area to chase some storms. But yeah, that was very popular for a lot of kids that went to school there. And really most of the kids I graduated with were from Kansas. So they kind of grew up even through high school being interested in weather and chasing. It was just a matter of who was going to risk their car and hail damage.
Exactly.
Now, if you graduated with 8 people, was there an AMS chapter there for a student chapter?
So there was, it was very small. There was about 20 of us, I think, through all the grades that were in this AMS chapter. And I think something that's really cool and I think unique about my graduating class was there was only one male and all the rest of us were females, which I thought was really cool.
I'm sure he did too.
Of course they
Who
did.
knows?
Wow, that's we've come such a long way. It makes me really happy.
I know.
I was like, are they the
I just
only
loved it.
female? Yeah.
I know. And that's what a lot of people tell me back in the day. You know, it wasn't popular for women to go into this. But what I saw going through school is I think it's really changing. And it was fun to have a lot of female classmates. You know, we all did our homework together and just really could relate to one another as a woman in science. So it was really, really great.
Now, were all of them wanting to go into broadcasting, or were some of them going different
only
directions?
a few of us. Yeah, one gal did hydrometeorology. So KU was really interesting because they had these different like emphasis majors that you could choose. So I did the emphasis in media forecasting. So basically to graduate, I had to take a reporting class, a media writing class, and then just a class about how to find out information because I knew I wanted to go the more broadcast route. We had an air pollution one, we had a hydrometeorology one. So there were all these different groups that you could choose from. And then I think we just had a general meteorology one. So really all of us went in different directions, which is really cool to see now.
Oh, I bet.
So one of the questions we always ask everybody is, so why meteorology? Why'd you decide? What is it that something that happened in your life that made you decide to go into weather?
So the one event for me that I can think of growing up that made me realize how cool weather really is was the blizzard of 2003. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one, but in Denver, it dropped about 3 feet of snow at my parents' house. So I grew up in Littleton, which is sort of on the south side of Denver. It's about 20 minutes from downtown. And we had 2 weeks of spring break. So I was in elementary school then, and I remember 1 week we had spring break, and then the blizzard was the next week, and we didn't have school for a whole week because that's how much it kind of shut down the city. And of course, in Denver, it snows quite a bit, so we have the resources to be able to clear out snow, but that's just how devastating that storm was, is it really shut everything down for about a week. But as a kid during that storm, it was a lot of fun. We didn't have to go to school. We were able to, build snow forts and dig each other out to our neighbor's house so we could play with the other kids in the neighborhood. But I remember thinking, this is unbelievable, and I've never seen anything like this. So that was kind of the first event for me that I really realized how cool weather was and how impactful it could be. And it's funny now looking back on it, because snow is definitely my favorite thing to forecast. It's my favorite thing to be out in our storm chasing truck in. So I am just a huge snow lover, and maybe it traces back to that event and having a lot of snow days growing up. But that was the one event. And then when I got to high school, I just realized, I love math and science. So I wanted to choose something where I was doing something in those fields, and it just seems like the right fit for me. So I never looked back.
Yeah.
You guys have a storm chasing truck?
Yes. So we call it our pinpoint weather beast, which is really fun because we're like, hey, we're going out in the beast. And that's how we talk about it on air. Like, hey, I'm live in the beast tonight, and we can go live from inside the truck, which is really cool. So if I'm out on the plains of Colorado chasing severe thunderstorms and there's lightning around, I can be live inside the car, which is great.
Yeah.
So we don't have to kill our live shots just because there's a lightning threat or something like that. But it is this huge Chevy Silverado that's lifted a little bit, and they decked it out, and it actually growls like a beast. So we bring that.
That's scary.
It's so much fun. It is so much fun. People are scared of it, they think. I'm scared to drive it. A lot of viewers ask.
Oh, you
if I
drive it?
I don't. I've driven it in a parking lot one time for like a promo shoot.
Yeah.
I'm too scared. It's too big.
Is that where
but
the
we bring it to
accident happened?
schools. No. Oh, we bring it to schools a lot, and kids love the truck. So that's really, a lot of people know our station because they know about the beast.
Oh, that is so cool. Does
Yeah,
it really
it's so
growl?
fun.
So hey,
It does, yeah.
Jessica,
Oh my
what
God.
tell people what's the secret to being able to get your first jobs in your home state and now your home city? Well, what's the secret? Share the wealth.
Yeah, great question. So I'm still a little bit shocked that I even made it home to Denver. I feel very, very thankful to be here. I love Colorado with my whole heart. It's my home state, and it was my goal to make it to Denver, really, when I started in this industry. And the best advice I can give to people, especially going through school and going the broadcast route, is just to network. So I reached out to Denver meteorologists. I was able to go shadow them. I actually shadowed at every single station except mine before I got hired at Fox in the city beforehand, just reaching out to meteorologists. And they all were so generous to me when I was a student. I just wanted to ask them questions and see what their job is like and see what being a meteorologist in Denver really was like. And I ended up meeting a guy at a school career fair that was actually for the journalism department that I decided to go to. And he put me in contact with the news director in Grand Junction. And I knew that I was going to have to start probably in a smaller town. So I just reached out, and that's how I got started there. And I was extremely lucky. The television station I was working for in Grand Junction in Colorado Springs, they didn't really do contracts for a lot of their just reporters and newer, younger people. So when I was ready to move on from Colorado Springs, I went to, or should I say Grand Junction, I went to Colorado Springs knowing that there would be a lot more weather. So the Western Slope, it's very deserty, and there's not a whole lot of severe weather. There is some snow. Occasionally we'll get a severe thunderstorm or two, but it's definitely a lot crazier on the Front Range. So I knew I wanted to make it over to this side of the Rockies as fast as I could. And when I got to Colorado Springs, I really learned how crazy the weather is here in Colorado.
Did you visit the Air Force Academy?
Of course. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I went to
yeah.
a football game. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The Thunderbirds would fly over all the time. That's one of the things I miss most about Colorado Springs.
That's cool.
Is all of the jets that were training, we'd be out and about, and they would just be flying and practicing, and the Thunderbirds would fly overhead. So that's one of the things I miss most about it.
Oh, you're so lucky.
So when you were shadowing at the Denver stations, you were basically amassing information, all their secrets. So when you finally got back there,
Exactly. No, I just asked. I wanted them to keep it real with me and really let me know what it's like to be a real broadcast meteorologist. And I think it's cool because I'm sort of on that other side now as a broadcast meteorologist, and I get to do a lot of the school outreach for my station. And I do a lot of career days at middle schools. So I get to, in turn, tell kids, what it's really like to be a broadcast meteorologist, just like those mentors. And other meteorologists in Denver did for me when I was going through school. So it's really cool to be on the other side of it. But they were all so generous. And as you guys know, it's a small, tight-knit community. So I feel like when someone finds out you're going into meteorology, they want to do anything they can to help you in your journey. And I think that's really awesome.
So what's the kind of advice you can give young people that are trying to break into meteorology today? Now you said you're on the other side. So what kind of information are you passing along?
So one of the big things, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much this can play into broadcast meteorology, is you just have to have a thick skin. You know, you're going to have consultants telling you what they want you to do. You're going to have bosses telling you how you should do things. But more importantly, you're going to have mean viewers who are going to tell you what they think of your hair and your clothes and how you pronounced a word and whatever it may be. And they're calling the station, they're emailing the station. And I didn't really realize how much flack people on TV get until I was in the industry. So I think just warning them about that and just also letting them know we're not perfect. We're just normal humans. We're going to mess up our words sometimes. We're going to, be looking at the wrong camera when the camera's on us. There's all these little things that can go wrong in a newscast, but you just have to learn to brush it off and just know that you're a normal human, and hopefully people will accept that.
So you mess up. What's the worst thing you've ever said on the air?
Oh, goodness. I don't think I've said anything super bad. I remember one morning, here's a story. I was filling in for the morning guy. And actually, since I started in this business, I've been the weekend meteorologist. So I'm never used to working mornings when I have to fill in. And I remember it was our 4:30 a.m. hit. And I was trying to say carbon copy. And I said copy carbon. And I was like, wait a second. And I remember that moment because I paused and I was like, you know what? It's 4:30 in the morning. I can't quite get my thoughts together just yet.
That's nothing. You got to say
really,
like
that's pretty mild.
If you're going to say warm air mass, don't drop air.
Oh yeah, that would be
man. I've said that. I've said it all, man.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I one time was on the desk in Grand Junction, and I'm terrified of spiders. And we were doing the tag at the end of my weather forecast, and there was a spider on its web coming down in front of my face, maybe a few inches from it.
No.
Yeah, and I was debating, and I was newer at this point. I'd only been in the industry a few months. So you know how when you first start out, you think you have to ignore everything that's happening and just keep going on. So that's what I did, but it dropped on the desk in front of us, and it was crawling around. So I remember looking back at the hit, and I kept following it with my eyes. And I looked kind of concerned, like I had really wide eyes, and I was definitely concerned about something, but I never brought it up to the viewers. But I think now I would say something, oh, there's a spider, look at that. And viewers would be able to relate more, but...
That is so true, Jessica. So true, because you do that. I remember the same thing at the Weather Channel, and I mean, we've had squirrels in the studio, we've had birds in the studio, spiders, flies, bees, wasps, everything in there. The same thing, because the people see it, and when it's live, they see what's going on, and if you ignore it, they're like, "How can you ignore that? There's a spider right in front of your face."
Exactly.
So with you, it's like you just acknowledge it and move on.
Oh, it's so
and you
funny.
ignore it.
So Jessica, what's the most nervous you've been on air? What's the moment that
oh, that's a good question.
You had the sweaty palms and you were done and you totally couldn't remember what you even just said.
Oh goodness. Let's see. We had a few wildfires start when I was down in Colorado Springs, and it was always a panic at first to get on air, and we would do a cut-in for it because obviously in Colorado Springs, there was the Waldo Canyon fire and the Black Forest fire. So anytime there is a wildfire down in that area, people are a little bit anxious about it and they want to know what's going on. So we try to alert the public as fast as possible. So I remember being in our newsroom and these fires would break out, and our news director would just say, all right, get on air right now. And it's at the moment where you don't know any information about the fire. And I remember that happening several times. And you're just like, okay, well, I'm talking about this wildfire. Here it is. We don't know how big it is. We don't know what caused it. But you're just kind of up there talking until your news director lets you know that you don't need to talk anymore. So I would say situations like that are just kind of out of the blue and you don't have all the information that you want. I've been in a few blizzards where we're in the car and we can't see a few feet in front of us. And it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, we're going to pull over here because, we're not safe. It doesn't necessarily make me scared or nervous.
Were you on the air at the time?
There has been situations, yeah.
Okay.
Because we can go live in our Pinpoint Weather Beast. So there's been times where we're like, okay, we're going to pull over. There was one time, and obviously that truck is something we use a lot for marketing at our station. And we were trying to chase down some hail damage. And there was this big hailstorm. It was last year in Aurora, Colorado. And they had tennis ball sized hail that was just smashing out everyone's windshields. And I'm sure you guys have seen some of the hailstorms we've seen here in Colorado. They're pretty devastating. And we were taking the Pinpoint Weather Beast to go find some of the damage to get it on air because we were interrupting whatever show was on and doing a live cut-in. And all of a sudden we had a tennis ball sized hailstone drop on our windshield and just crack it all the way across. And I remember them tossing to me right after that. And I just was like, I am so sorry. We cracked the windshield of the Beast. We're trying to get out of this storm and find the damage.
Dangerous.
Yeah. That was one of the situations where I'm like, am I in trouble? Like, I don't want to damage our Beast. We need to get south.
Are you calling it the Pinpoint Weather Beast or Pimped Out Weather Beast?
I wish Pimped Out, but it's Pinpoint.
No
That's
spinners.
like our team brand.
Hubcap,
Pinpoint
spin.
Weather.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
No, but it's pretty pimped out.
I'm gonna ask a couple questions. So Maz, when you go to your phone to like look up the weather for the day, what app are you looking at?
I actually use Weather Underground.
Okay, Kim, what about you? What's your go-to daily weather?
My go-to is Weather Channel.
Okay, so here's the point. I already talked to people. There's two different options. There's a ton of choices out there, and you probably ask yourself, why the heck would anybody make a new weather app with all the different apps out there? So I'm telling you, you only ask that question because you haven't tried Atmosphere Weather. Atmosphere Weather, it's all about presenting your entire daily forecast each hour on one screen around a 24-hour clock. And now on Android and iOS, if you're a baseball fan, you can view each day's game time right on the hourly weather dial. And if it looks good, you can also order tickets to the game right from the app. Isn't that cool? So if it looks good, weather looks good, I can just click a button right there and you can get your tickets right from the app. So you got to try it to believe it. Stop what you're doing right now. Pause the podcast and download Atmosphere Weather. It's now on iOS and Android. There's a full-featured free trial. Then there's a basic version that's free once the trial's over. So trust me, guys. Follow the freaks and search Atmosphere Weather in your app store, or you can visit atmosphereweather.com. So we're going to go ahead and take a short break. Go ahead and refill your drink and check out Tracker Chat with the Tornado Trackers. They're now discussing part 3 of the tornado events that have shaped them, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Tracker Chat, a podcast within a podcast. We are the Tornado Trackers. My name is Jeremy Heyman, and I'm joined by my chasing partners, Gabe Cox and Jeff Mangum. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the tornado events that shaped each of us individually into the storm chasers today. Jeff started us off with 1997's Gerald, Texas F5 tornado. Gabe then followed up the week after with the May 3rd, 1999 Oklahoma City tornado in a tornado that he shared with us. It was the infamous EF0. Was it in Jacksonville? Was that right, Gabe?
Yeah, downtown Jacksonville.
Yes. And there's a great video on our YouTube page of Gabe's vantage point there. He's
very good video. Yeah,
literally underneath the rotation. It's incredible.
I need to make a disclaimer there. I shared my story without saying that is not proper tornado safety, and don't copy what I did.
Yeah,
there I said it.
But enjoy the video.
Great color in the sky there in that video. Beautiful blue. Well, this week, the tornado event that shaped my life was the 2004 Hallam, Nebraska tornado. At the time, it was the widest tornado ever recorded. I was about 16 or 17 at the time. I spent a ton of time out in the country with my friends back in those days. So I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, which isn't a huge town, but for Nebraska it is. But a lot of my friends live south of Lincoln, and so we would spend a lot of afternoons out at their houses playing in the country. So it was May 22nd, smack dab in the middle of the chase season. And I just remember the atmosphere being electric that day. Like, now I know that the atmosphere was arranging itself in a certain way that was conducive to a tornado, but it was literally electric, it felt like. And I remember driving back up into Lincoln, leaving my friend's house that day, and got the tornado warning in the car, and we booked it into Lincoln. I love Jeff and Gabe's stories because it really illustrates how brave they were. And I was not brave at all. Like, I was a very scared, anxious kid and just freaked out by the reality of tornadoes and thunderstorms. And so we kind of booked it back into town, and the tornado touched down around 7:30 and cut a extremely long path going northeast, kind of the classic tornado path. And reached F-force wind speeds at the time. We weren't using the enhanced scale at the time, but it of note, the tornado hit my friend's school. So it was Norris School. It was it's this K through 12. So there's like an elementary, a junior high, and a high school, and it in particular hit the middle school really severely. And I remember driving by the next day and seeing the damage and just kind of being in awe of what that could do. But that really, it made it personal for me, I think, because my friends were affected by it. And I don't know if I had known anyone affected personally by severe weather at the time. And so it really impacted me significantly. What else? Interestingly, Reed Timmer was on this tornado. He has a great video on YouTube, chasing that storm. But yeah, this was the tornado that kind of touched my life, and really put me in a mode to think about being around storms like this more often in my future. And meeting Jeff and Gabe obviously was kind of the beautiful fruition of that as well. So. Yeah, Hallam, Nebraska, May 22nd, 2004. At the time, the widest tornado. I believe it got about 2.5 miles wide, and now it's been usurped by the infamous El Reno, Oklahoma tornado. So a pretty infamous group to be in.
I will say this, Jeremy, you mentioned that you were kind of timid and you were running away from the tornado. Everyone should know that Jeremy is no longer timid, and we have footage from Wynnewood and Hugo to prove that. He was a beast behind the wheel, driving full on towards those crazy tornadoes, and you should watch it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it swung kind of in the opposite direction, which is funny. It's funny for my family too, because they obviously all know who I was as a little kid, and so they're all kind of, I don't know, I think they're all a bit still in shock that I hang out with you guys. Well, thanks guys so much. This has been Tracker Chat, the podcast within a podcast. We are the Tornado Trackers. You can find us all over social media at Tornado Trackers. I think we're a pretty good follow everywhere, and tornadotrackers.org. We will be with y'all next week. This has been Tracker Chat. See you later.
Hey, welcome back. So we're with Denver meteorologist Jessica LaBelle, and so Jessica, my question I want to start off with you is now that you said you've gotten to the other side of the Rockies, you're in Denver, you've got more severe weather. What's your station, and I should say stations, And I might ask you about that later as well. But what's your philosophy on severe weather? How do you guys handle it? Do you go live the whole time there's something within your DMA? Are you how are you interrupting programming and all that?
So yeah, interesting question. So here in Denver, we try to cover weather for the whole state. There are a few areas, obviously, that Colorado Springs and Grand Junction cover that we don't reach. But the majority of the state we do try to broadcast for. So there's about 9 counties that we have kind of up and down the Front Range that are more populated, where if there's a tornado warning or something like that, we're going to be on the air to let people know. Obviously, it does depend. If we have, NFL football on a Thursday night, we may just, run the crawl and cut into commercial time. But it really does depend on population. It's so interesting to work on the Front Range because you have all these cities, Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, down to Colorado Springs, that are pretty populated. And then you get out onto the Eastern Plains, and there's not a ton of people that live out that direction. So we're constantly trying to figure out, how many people are under the threat. But really, no matter where it is, if we know there's a confirmed tornado on the ground, we're going to be on the air. So we just kind of evaluate what show is on, how big the threat is. And then we really take into account for those 9 kind of metro counties is what we call it. And then what's interesting about the Front Range is it's not just tornadoes that we would cut in for. We can have burn scar flooding that becomes pretty dangerous. Obviously, our hailstorms have been a very big one since I've been in Denver. We have seen hailstorms completely destroy house windows, all the windows on cars, car dealerships. Really, once a year we get a big storm like that across the metro. So that is something that we will be carrying people through, for an hour or 2 on air until the threat passes. So,
do you go into like Western Kansas or any Nebraska or anything like that?
We have heard that some of, let's say, southwestern Nebraska or even southern Wyoming can get some of our channels. But we don't necessarily, we'll travel or show something in Cheyenne, let's say, because it's a little bit more populated, especially like Cheyenne Frontier Days, which is a big country music festival. A lot of our people are traveling up there to go listen to the music. So that's something that we will cover that area and just kind of let people know what's going on. But certainly if there's tornadoes really anywhere around the state, we're talking about it and showing people just because it's impacting, someone and it's close to our state. So people probably have heard about it.
What's with those 2 channels? So obviously you're not the first person we had in that situation, but explain that. And then my question is, do you see this being the trend where stations are consolidating those resources?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, my first station actually in Grand Junction was a duopoly. It was KKCO and KJCT.
Duopoly, I love that game.
Yeah, duopoly. So yeah, that's what we, I guess, call it here in the industry. But ABC and NBC were the affiliates I worked for in Grand Junction, and this one is CW and Fox. So it's very interesting to work for 2 stations because a lot of people will get viewer questions like, hey, I saw you were on both channels tonight. Did you have to drive far to go to the other station? But we're all under one roof. So the 2 studios are right next to each other. Most of the on-air talent, we're really on both stations. So when people ask which channel I work for, I say both because I'm absolutely on both. So we have different newscasts. The only ones that are overlapping and at the same time is the 2 morning shows on either station. But in the evening, we have a 4 p.m. on our channel 2, and then we'll have a 5 p.m. on Fox 31, and then a 7 p.m. on channel 2, and then 9:10 on Fox, and then an 11 p.m. on channel 2.
Don't you ever get confused?
Oh, yeah, it happens. We have a lot of reporters that will, accidentally start tagging out on one, or sometimes we'll just say, reporting live for Fox 31 and channel 2, and people kind of know that we're together as one, and all of our jackets and branding and stuff have both stations on it, so it's really interesting to have the 2 different sides. And I will say it gets kind of crazy because we have a lot of newscasts, more than you would normally have at just one channel. So if people are out of town, you're going back to back to back to back on newscasts, which can get pretty crazy, but it does make the day fly by.
Kim, it's like you, Kim. You're working basically it's 24 hours constantly on the air.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. And then, Phil, to answer your question about really stations consolidating, I do think that it's possible, especially in different regions, that a lot of newscasts broadcast out of one station. And I do think that's kind of where things are going. And I think a lot of the bigger cities are going to be where a lot of these smaller cities are going to broadcast from. They just have a lot more of the resources, and it's going to be really interesting to see, 10, 20 years down the road what happens. But I do see that becoming more of a trend.
That's how they get away from not having to pay you twice.
Exactly.
True.
I mean, it's definitely
No,
money
that's
is
true.
driving this. Absolutely.
Any radio
Do they-
stations?
Yeah. So we do weather actually for, I would say, a good 5 to 10 stations across the state. So when we come in, and so it'll be like more of a broad group that owns a couple of stations, and we'll just record one hit. But we do them for the mountains, the southeastern plains. We have a northern mountain group, a southern mountain group, a northern front range group, a northeastern plains, and then we'll do it for here in the metro. So when we get in, we're forecasting for the whole state right away for our radio hits.
That's like country and Western.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, we're talking to people who live in the mountains. We're talking to people on the southeastern plains. And then we're also trying to relate and talk to people who live up and down the metro. So it's a pretty interesting mix.
Now
What-
for
what-
like two
Go ahead, Maureen.
for, two different stations, because we have something like that in Columbus for like Fox 28 and ABC 6 are the same thing basically. Do they produce the same? Like, I'm sure the weather's exactly the same, because why would it be different? But like, do they produce the same news content, or is there like something slightly different? I'm sure like the morning shows, since they're different shows, are different, but
Great question.
how is that?
Yeah, so a lot of our reporters, when they're out working on a story, if it's like a big package or something, they can kind of do a little bit of a different angle for the other station. Sometimes, obviously, if we're in a time crunch, it's the same content. And what's been really interesting is to work for a weather team that has 2 stations. And our big goal is to keep the message really consistent between the 2 of them. So not only are we forecasting, for ourselves and to broadcast out to our viewers, but we have to work with the other meteorologist who, say, is doing the Channel 2 morning show if I'm working the Fox morning show. And we really need to communicate with each other on, okay, so what is going to be our range for snowfall totals? What do you think the high is going to be tomorrow? And that's certainly been something we've had to work out as a team and just kind of work together and make it one consistent message. So if people are watching Fox or they're watching Channel 2, they're getting the same weather forecast.
Can I ask why not have just one? I mean, why have 2 if everything's pretty much the same?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think
know?
they really like to have the exciting, only seen on Fox. You know how they'll run those stories that are specials, or only seen at 9 p.m. tonight, or new at 9. So they really try to pick or choose. A lot of the content is the same, I will say, but there's certain stories that they will save for either a specific channel or a specific newscast. And maybe it's an anchor, doing a special project that works more on one side than the other. Then they'll be more likely to run it on that specific side. But it's most of the content is the same because the reporters are reporting for both sides.
So what are you doing, Jessica, personally to try and stay ahead of the TV news curve and TV broadcasting, and because they're consolidating they're that medium as far as people watching on TV is changing. So what I want to know is, personally, obviously you sound like you're obviously well aware of that. What are you doing personally to make sure you're kind of staying ahead of that?
Yeah, great question. Really focusing on digital outlets. Social media has been really big for me, not only me and my station. They've really pushed us kind of getting our weather information out that way.
Do they have a requirement? I'm going to quick interrupt. Do they have a requirement social media wise for you?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
we do have a certain system where they can kind of see how we're doing. So they will check in with us, and we try to set goals for ourselves to be at, a certain point by the end of the year or whatever it may be. So we're always trying to push ourselves to really connect with people more that way. And I have found, more viewers are asking me about, Facebook Lives or an Instagram story where I was posting snowfall totals than I ever get just doing a newscast and people emailing after. So I've really found that's been my way to connect with viewers. And I think a lot more of the content is going to be available online than it will be on TV, because people, they're not stopping their lives these days to watch the 6 p.m. newscast.
Yeah.
So, teachers these days have to take their laptops home, and they almost have to stay online for the kids to ask questions till 10 o'clock. Do you find that with radio and social media. It's not an 8-hour day. It's just like all the time for you, or what?
I will say it depends on the weather. So if I know it's going to be a big severe weather day, or if I know there's a blizzard coming in the next day or two, I'm definitely going to be paying attention to my social media more. I'm going to be posting information out to people, even when I'm not at work. But I think it is important for people to sort of step away from work when they're not at work, and to kind of have that time away. And I try to set aside a time or two, at least each week, where I don't have my phone and I'm not on Instagram. And, maybe it's picking one day a week where I'm not posting on social media. And obviously, if the weather's going to be crazy, that may change. But I think it's really important to separate those two things sometimes.
Your future kids will appreciate that.
That's right.
Oh, good.
All right. So what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies?
Okay. Well, being in Colorado, I ski, which is a lot of fun.
Yay.
Requirement.
Yeah.
Love it.
When I lived in Kansas, I was kind of sad because I didn't have ski areas, but every winter break we would plan a trip to go to Colorado and ski. And then I do some hiking around the area. I watched college basketball, obviously, going to KU.
Yeah.
Big KU basketball fan.
Of course.
So related to that, one of the viewers says, can you pick a favorite Colorado town or area?
Oh, that's tough. Oh, man. I would have to say Vail, Colorado is my favorite town in the state.
Okay.
I grew up skiing there, so I have a lot of memories there. I think it's very, very beautiful, the architecture. It's very like European-esque. I think the skiing is fantastic there. I believe it's the largest ski area in the state. So I always enjoy my time there. There's a lot of cool restaurants. There's some nightlife there. So it's a pretty cool mountain town. I'd have to say that's my favorite. And then I also love the Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs. If anyone comes to Colorado, Morgan, I recommend taking a visit. It's so cool.
I'm super excited. There's so much stuff to do out there.
So much.
Way more in Ohio,
Here, I'll say this. Morgan, I hope you like being outside, because one of the things I was looking up for the lightning round was trying to find like top 10 most popular places in Colorado. And it was all parks, outside parks. And so I hope you like outside.
I do like outside.
Good.
I like to climb. Colorado's a good climbing place.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're coming to the right place.
Yeah.
Good.
I know. That's why I chose it. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, Jessica, how can our listeners find you and follow you on social media and stalk you if they're not already?
Oh, no.
Wow.
So most of my stuff is Jessica LaBelle WX. So if you just search that in Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you'll be able to find my page.
You just freaked out her mom right there. Like, no, don't.
Yeah. Well,
No, unfortunately, that's
she was
part of
obviously
it.
explaining the challenges with
I'll
it.
say you freaked out my mom when you mentioned severe weather in Colorado. She just found out that they got tornadoes out there. She's
Oh no.
yeah.
It's pretty rare in
Like,
Fort
she's-
Collins, right?
Everyone's mom.
Like,
And
Mom,
Maz,
I
the
get
only I'll say, Maz, the only reason people never stalked you is because there was no social media when you were on the air. So
That's right.
You were able to avoid that.
We had stone tablets and we chiseled, so it took longer.
All
So I
right.
will say, that's such a weird
We
part
really
of the business.
did.
Oh, hey, that's the sound. It is time for our lightning round, Jessica. This is our game show of flashy questions for our guest. We invite everybody to play along, including you that happen to be listening tonight. So I told you I was trying to do a little research on this. Tonight, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna call this. I don't know what to call this because I'm just gonna call it Colorado or Arizona.
Okay.
Pretty boring title, but so here I should have come up with a better one, but here's what it is. Okay, I looked up movies that were filmed in its entirety or partially in Colorado.
Okay.
And then I also looked up, I tried to make this interesting. I'm like, well, it's got to be a state. It can't be Colorado or Florida because it'd be too easy to understand. So it's Colorado or Arizona. So I'm going to give you the name of two movies. One was filmed in Colorado. One was filmed in Arizona. You have to tell me which movie was filmed in Colorado. Does that make sense?
Ooh, sounds tough.
And as we play the lightning round, the freaks are always welcome to encourage you if they think they know, or you certainly can ask. But none of them live in Colorado or Arizona, so I don't know how much help you're going to get. And Morgan hasn't been there quite yet. So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so here's the first one. I'm going to give you two movies. One is Tombstone from 1993. The other is The Lone Ranger, Disney's The Lone Ranger from 2013. One was Colorado and one was filmed in Arizona. Which was Colorado?
I'm gonna say The Lone Ranger.
You would be correct. It was The Lone Ranger, was filmed in Colorado. All right, we're on a roll.
Did you just raise the roof?
I did.
Check.
Nice.
Here we go. Next one, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, 2005 film, or Jerry Maguire, a 1996 film. One was filmed in Colorado, one Arizona. Which one was Colorado?
How about Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire. That would be incorrect. It
I
was
didn't know
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Wow.
So that was Brad Pitt and Joel.
Yeah, Angelina.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, they're already out of the news. I don't even remember their names anymore. Wow. Okay, if you are a sci-fi fan, you have to tell me which of these was filmed in Colorado. It was either Independence Day or it was Star Trek First Contact. Independence Day was a 96 film. So was Star Trek First Contact.
I've never seen either of those.
So you're not a
I
sci-fi
love
fan.
Independence
Okay, we know
Day.
that.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
We just lost
do you
a
guys
couple
think?
of the moms listening to us. What do you think, freaks?
Yeah.
Which one
I
was
think
Colorado?
Independence Day was Colorado.
Okay, we'll go with Independence.
Oh.
Day.
Independence
First
Day.
contact. Oh,
That
there
is
you go.
correct.
Okay.
That was, you should have zipped it before
yeah, you're right.
their
Sorry.
mask. Okay, moving on. We got a couple comedies here. Spaceballs, 1987
Oh,
film, which you
gosh.
probably don't remember, and Dumb and Dumber,
I do.
which is the 1994 film. You probably weren't born during any of these, but
man.
Spaceballs or Dumb and
No, I
Dumber.
was.
Oh,
One
now
was
you think
Colorado,
about,
one was Arizona.
think about one of the scenes
Ooh.
in Dumb and Dumber. It could not be Arizona.
Yeah, it's Dumb and Dumber for sure.
Wow, very good. Good job, Kim.
Remember his
Yeah.
Good job.
tongue got
Tongue
stuck on the pole or something? Yeah.
Yep.
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 Good job.
That's
Good job, Kim.
Remember the most
Thanks.
annoying sound that you've ever heard? Remember that? I won't do it now. But okay, moving on to another couple comedies. These are older ones. We've got City Slickers, 1991, and we have Three Amigos, 1986.
Good Lord.
What was there?
Ooh.
Colorado.
Hmm.
Colorado. Do you even know those two movies?
City Slickers? Never seen either of those.
City Slickers, you would be correct.
Good job.
That is correct. All right,
It's a good
Monday.
movie. That's a
Judy,
good
moving
I
on.
movie.
didn't get that one.
couple action films. Ready for a couple action films?
Yeah.
Die Hard 2
Mm.
from 1990 or Days of Thunder, 1990.
Hmm.
So Die Hard, Bruce Willis, Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise. Who was in Colorado?
I'm gonna say Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder. That would be incorrect. You were on a roll there. Die Hard was filmed in Colorado. Adventure. Here we got some adventure movies. Star Wars Return of the Jedi, 1983, or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in 1989. One was filmed in Colorado, one was filmed in Arizona.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think Star Wars. 'Cause Indiana Jones, I picture like desert.
Desert.
I don't know.
Okay. Return of the Jedi was filmed in Arizona. So
Oh,
Oh, I would have thought the same
part?
thing, Jessica. Yeah.
that was hard.
you know the hard part is it doesn't mean they were in the film, they were in Colorado, right? They just happened
True.
to be there. But all right, we got three more left. A couple more comedies here. We've got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1989, and we have Christmas Vacation in 1989. Which one was
Oh,
filmed in
man.
Colorado? Freaks, any idea?
I
Christmas
think Christmas
Vacation.
Vacation.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I do too.
Christmas Vacation?
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
correct.
Hey,
Mhm.
Very good. All right. Couple more 80s films here. We've got War Games, 1983 with Matthew Broderick. And we have Revenge of the Nerds, 1984 with, I don't know who was in
What
that
the
movie.
fuck's a frush? Did anybody remember that? What the fuck's a frush? Oh, well, never mind. You had to be there.
I don't remember
Sorry.
that quote. I saw the movie. I don't
I'm
remember.
around.
edit that
real
out.
life.
Revenge of the Nerds. That's my vote.
Revenge of the Nerds. That would be
Aw.
incorrect. It was War Games that was filmed in Colorado. And then here's kind of the last one. A couple of 60s and 70s movies, Maz. This is up your alley.
What
We
the? What? Go ahead,
got-
Kim. Say it again. Say it again.
Planet of the Apes, 1968, or we have
Oh,
Every Which
good
Way But
Lord.
Loose, 1978.
That's crazy.
Oh.
So a Clint Eastwood film or a who was Planet of the Apes? Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, yeah.
Charlton Heston.
Ooh, what do you guys think?
I think Clint Eastwood film.
That's
I was
the
told to zip it, son.
So Every Which Way But Loose. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
That would be correct. Very good. Now here's a gimme. This is a gimme. You ready for this one?
Hopefully.
Okay. 1995 film with Andy Garcia, Christopher Walken, and Steve Buscemi called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, or the Nicolas Cage flick in 1987 called Raising Arizona. One was filmed in Colorado. One was filmed in
There's a
Arizona.
movie called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
There is.
That's
It,
hilarious.
it must be a mob
right,
movie
that's my
because
vote.
with
It's not skiing, just to let you know.
with
I
Andy
wonder.
Garcia, Christopher
wonder.
Walker, and Steve Buscemi, I'd figure it's got to be some kind of
Gotta watch that.
mob
Yeah.
film. But so you said Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead,
Yeah.
and
There
that
you
would be
go.
correct.
Good job. Yeah.
Well done.
That was tough.
I figured I'd throw an easy one in there because if you didn't do very well, at least you'd finish on a high note.
Got
But
one.
You did outstanding.
Yeah.
I think you only
You
missed a
did
couple.
great.
And
Only
The whole
like
thing.
2
Great.
of those movies were out when I went to Wild.
Oh my God. We don't want to hear that more than that.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith and whatever was in 2013. Everything else was before.
Hey, MJ, it's really loud.
so all that means is that either they are not filming films in Arizona or Colorado anymore, or just not any good ones that people would know
Yeah.
what they
They're
are.
all filmed in
anyway.
Atlanta.
Both.
They are. They're all in Atlanta.
All
My
right,
cousin
so-
was an extra
true.
in something.
So
Oh,
thanks for
really?
playing along, Jessica. Well done on
Oh,
that. We're
thanks, guys.
we're gonna go
Nice
ahead. We're gonna
job.
take our final break with our tornado talk segment, and we're gonna be right back with some weather fools.
The April 2011 super outbreak occurred between April 25th and the 28th. Per an article by the National Center for Environmental Information, there were 362 tornadoes during that time frame that resulted in $11 billion in damages, and an estimated 321 people lost their lives. Between 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time on April 27th until 7 a.m. Central Time on the 28th, 175 tornadoes occurred. Per the Storm Prediction Center, this is the greatest outbreak of tornadoes on record for a one-day period. 11 of the 175 tornadoes were rated EF4, and 4 were given an EF5 rating. This tornado history segment looks at one of those catastrophic EF5 tornadoes. The path length was 132 miles. It reached a maximum width of 1.25 miles. 145 injuries were reported, and 72 people were killed. This massive twister began west of Alabama Highway 19 near Sipsey Creek in Marion County. There was significant tree damage at the beginning of the path. It continued off to the northeast and strengthened to EF4 status just southwest of Hackleburg. The tornado tracked parallel to U.S. Highway 43 toward the town and strengthened even more. It was now an EF5 with winds up to 210 miles per hour. Several neighborhoods and businesses, the Hackleburg High School, Middle School, and the elementary school, were all destroyed. Vehicles were tossed up to 200 yards. A well-built home with 4 brick sides was completely leveled, and the debris from the home was tossed over 40 yards to the north. This violent long-track tornado moved into southern Franklin County and devastated the community of Phil Campbell. It was still producing EF5 damage. Per the National Weather Service survey, along Bonner Street, multiple block homes were leveled to the ground with the block foundations destroyed. A 25-foot section of pavement was sucked up and scattered, and chunks of the pavement was found in a home over 1/3 of a mile down the road. The tornado moved away from this area and toward the Oak Grove community. Per the National Weather Service, quote, the tornado at this point may have reached a relative maximum in intensity well into the EF5 category as the damage was slightly more intense and the path width was a maximum of greater than 1 mile. There was a large area of destruction in this area, especially along County Road 38 and Smith Lane. A well-constructed home here with extensive anchoring was carried well away from the site, and there was also a Corvette that was mangled and thrown 641 feet. That was officially measured. The twister continued a northeasterly track into Lawrence County, still producing EF5 damage. This was found in the Mount Hope area. Single-family homes and a restaurant were leveled. As the tornado continued to move off to the northeast, it did weaken slightly, but still was bringing down TVA high-voltage power line trusses. North of the Moulton area, the tornado strengthened again to high-end EF4. Multiple homes were destroyed in this area, and several cars were tossed into a field and found wrapped around trees. The tornado briefly crossed into rural areas of northwestern Morgan County, and low-end EF3 tree and vegetation damage was found here. The tornado crossed the Tennessee River and into Limestone County, and it strengthened once again, producing EF4 damage. Several well-constructed homes with anchor bolting was completely wiped clean, and one home had the debris lofted over 300 yards, with large items carried completely away. There was intense ground scarring also noted in this area. The long-track tornado moved into Madison County, producing mainly EF3 damage, but there was an area of EF4 damage in Anderson Hills. Per the National Weather Service, the tornado either weakened or may have briefly lifted in the northeastern part of Madison County. It then re-strengthened as it moved into Lincoln County, Tennessee. The damage there was minor. As it continued into Franklin County, Tennessee, more significant damage occurred. Some EF2 damage found southwest of the Huntland area, and then EF3 damage was found at a farm complex. The tornado finally dissipated east of Huntland. While researching this event, I read about a documentary called I'm with Phil. In the early part of 2011, a gentleman from Brooklyn, New York, with the name Phil Campbell, started organizing a convention for the 100th anniversary of the town Phil Campbell. Who would be invited? People around the world with the name of Phil Campbell. The plans for the convention, though, were soon interrupted by the EF5 of April 27, 2011. After the devastation that left 27 killed in the community, another Phil Campbell from Nottingham, England, had an idea. Why not have all Phil Campbells that were coming in for the convention help their namesake town rebuild? The documentary is about how the convention turned into a recovery effort. Details on this event from the National Weather Service offices in Birmingham and Huntsville. Explore more tornado history at tornadotalk.com or follow us on social media.
Welcome back, so we're moving on to our favorite segment, Weather Fools, aka the segment of people who don't know how to look at the sky and realize that stuff's going on. So, for those of you that don't know, Weather Fools is just that kind of time where we describe foolish things that people do in inclement weather activities. And I believe Kim has a couple. Yeah, I
do.
You haven't. I don't know how much you practiced since the last episode, but that wasn't bad.
I even wrote down a little thing.
She had notes,
and I didn't even follow it.
That was with a cheat sheet, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa.
Ooh, I'm gonna skip over that part on Spotify.
All right, Kim. She introduced you.
Anyway, so here we are at CNN.com, and they're talking about the Weather Channel being knocked off the air by malicious software attack. So I think whoever did this is a weather fool. The Weather Channel actually had to go to weather.com and do their broadcasting from weather.com today while they were investigating what happened here. So that's my first weather fool, okay? I don't know what the latest is with if they're back on right now, but it's just crazy to think that, I mean, the Weather Channel is so vital to safety, you know, especially this time of the year, that somebody would do something like that is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know what you guys think, but
is that video still a CNN commercial?
It is still a commercial.
Okay.
What is it for? Zip lining?
Are we going to eventually see the video?
There's no video.
Eventually, it'd be dinosaurs on the.
What would you watch on the video anyway of a malicious malware attack?
People typing.
Yeah,
That's true.
Because they
Some
knocked you
B-roll.
off the air.
So CNN says
static.
it started at 6 o'clock in the morning. So they were rerunning things, taped shows until they were able to get people over to the other at weather.com to get people there in their studio to actually broadcast. So you think it can't happen to you? It surely can. That's kind of
6
scary.
a.m.
Yeah, who doesn't
Yeah.
wakes up like, okay, I'm gonna wake up
It's
early
Russia.
tomorrow. I'm
It's
gonna
Russia.
That's got to narrow
and
down
like,
the hackers.
Yeah,
it's got to be like
yeah,
8 p.m. there.
Somebody was colluding. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Now here's the
We just
second
lost
one.
all our Russian viewers.
Yeah, we did.
That's all
But
right.
China's still on.
Okay. All right, guys. All right, Phil. You know, you were talking about all the hail. People were doing crazy things.
Yes.
If you go to this website, it's WQAD. This is out of Texas, and they actually are showing some pictures of what people have done to try to protect their cars from the hail damage they were expecting. And you can see this one picture. They must have taken every cushion out of their house.
Look at that. It's right in front of their garage door, too.
It is, exactly.
Oh, my God.
And
Use your freaking
strapped
garage.
it all across their car. And there's actually one they put blankets. This one is look at this expensive car. It's a racing car. And they just put blankets over the top of it. But what's cool about this too, and this one is my favorite.
Of course, those won't blow off.
No, exactly. This guy put some beach towels over the windshield and maybe a yoga mat. I can't tell what it is. But actually, the TV station went out and they tested these things. They had a baseball crew come out and throw fast pitches at windshields that actually had these things on it.
God,
and
I hope they got permission first.
They did. They went to like a junkyard. They went to like a junkyard.
Okay.
And they had a police officer there who was actually, he was getting how fast the ball was going, so they knew. They were throwing baseballs at it, and they showed that actually those, the inflatables that you talked about, Phil, actually worked. The other one did not. The yoga mat, the towels and stuff.
How'd that Dollar Tree beach towel do?
Didn't do well.
I gotta do what I can to protect my truck.
And I thought, well, maybe just to protect from the water getting it. I'm not sure what the thinking was, but you know just how people tape windows. I don't know. But anyway, those are my weather fools, you guys. I'll send it back to you. Okay, there you go.
Okay, and Phil, you said you got one?
So I got a weather fool, which this was from James Spann's Twitter account. This was a little while back, but what had happened was he this was a tweet. What's the date on this? I'm looking at April 7th, and he said stated last night at Wilsonville, which is I assume is in Alabama. Yep, it's time to go inside, and so it's basically someone that's out on their front porch, and there's a lightning storm going on. And if you watch the video, you'll see a couple lightning flashes, and then it starts a fire. So I'll play that for you again. The challenge that I can't show you or let you listen to is while all this was going on, all of a sudden you hear this little girl start screaming and crying. And I'm thinking, yep, that's what you do during a lightning storm. Let's take my little daughter out. Let's watch this cool lightning storm because I'm sure this will help her not be afraid of lightning anymore. And of course, something strikes like, I would say that's maybe 50 feet to 100 feet from where they are, kind of starts a fire. It's freaking the kid out, which of course it would freak the heck out of me. Yeah. So I have no idea why you would do that, but that's my weather fool. That's not going to help your kid get over storms.
Well, and don't stand under trees.
Don't do that either. My guess is I think they were probably on their porch or right outside their house, but there's trees all over the place.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
That's a good one.
We got some good fools for you tonight, and you can always catch these fools on our show notes, episode 77 show notes, or you can go at Stormfront Freaks, look at the show notes, or you can go on your favorite podcast app and check those show notes out.
I gotta say, it actually is better than
stormfrontfreaks.com.
Yeah, it actually is better than last week.
What did I say?
Morgan.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that says a lot.
See, this time the intro was bad, but the outro was not too bad. Last time they were both bad.
It's all good.
I think you carried over a little of your southern drawl. There's some fools for you. There's some fools.
Hey, for y'all.
All right,
you guys should hear me do my grandma voice. Oh,
we're going past that. We're moving on. Maz,
right.
WX Resources. What do you
Time
got?
now for everyone's second favorite segment, right, Morgan?
Well, I think it's going to become number one pretty soon.
It could.
Yeah, I'm just going to ruin it for y'all.
Yep.
It's what we call WX Resources. And for the layman, WX stands for weather. Just letting you know. Okay, so weather resources, places you can find new stuff, new technology, whatever, apps, it's all there. And Phil, you've got one. I'm going to have you start this one.
So I've got my WX resource. So some people know I work up at Miami University, Miami of Ohio, and in their athletic department. And we started about a year ago, we started the process of becoming a storm-ready university. And so I was working with the Miami Police Department, And we actually just today, that was just presented to the university, that we are now storm ready through the National Weather Service.
Cool.
It's a great program, and I encourage you, just search Storm Ready or NWS Storm Ready. Google that, and they've got a whole page on how to do it. And you can be an institution, you can be a city, you can be a county, you can be a business. And all you have to do is just meet certain standards that the National Weather Service has for how you get watches and warnings and that kind of information. And then how do you disseminate that to your populace, whether it's again, a city, a county, a institution, a business, whatever it might be. It's great. It's a great way to just make sure you're in line with the National Weather Service with how you get the information and how you disseminate it.
And a great university too. That's a nice campus.
Oh, it's beautiful campus.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It was my son's second choice, just to let you know, out of all the schools.
Yeah.
So
We describe Miami as the preppy
Yeah.
school of Ohio.
I think
You're
Bill
welcome.
Hemmer
No
went
offense,
there.
Phil.
hmm
You're welcome.
Did you know the
worked there. I
side-
didn't go to school there.
the sidewalks are heated. I'm serious.
They
The
are,
sidewalks are
really?
heated. Yeah, they really
No, I
are.
didn't
Actually,
know
that I
that.
didn't
What I
know.
mean.
Yep. So
Is that
when you-
Houston Woods up there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. State Park. Yep.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Phil. Hey, I've found one and it's really cool. So Jessica,
Congratulations, Matt.
Oh, you are.
WX Resource.
oh, I see how you are. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I got this. So Jessica, you were talking about going to schools, and it's when I was on weather, it was a long time ago. We didn't have any kind of resources at all to use except like a chalkboard, or maybe you took a picture or something, and
Right.
VHS, something
A
like
light
that.
table.
Yeah, thanks. So, so I found a site that there's so many great sites out there, but I'm gonna see if I can share this with you. Okay.
Good.
I think out loud. So this is it's called SciJinx, SciJinks.gov. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on here, but one of the things I found, which I've been playing around with, it's kind of fun. I think it's in the games section, but can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has a picture. It's called Grow Snow Crystals. So you know, in the school books, we used to get all of our textbooks and stuff and be like, oh, here's a plate. Oh, here's a whatever crystal. Well, you can actually grow them. So it says to choose a temperature zone inside. So I'll choose this one, and it shows what the crystal would look like at that temperature. And then you say, okay, well, let's move up to here. Then it adds that to it. So you get okay, I'm going to come back up to here, and now it changes the crystal so they look like that.
Oh,
And I know it's
yeah.
tough to see for people because it's the podcast version, but we'll put this on our show notes. But I mean, you can only do so many. It says, oh, sorry, that's too many layers.
It's like Legos or Tinker Toys or
Yeah.
Lincoln
Magnetic
Logs.
like that.
Yeah, so you could start
Magnetic.
one and come down to the other one down here. I mean, it's got to be an infinite number of possibilities.
Cool.
You know, 'cause, oh, no, two
That's
snowflakes.
really cool.
Isn't that great?
That is really neat.
So there's a lot of really neat learning things for the kids and actually for meteorologists to take out to schools
Oh,
and
yeah.
show. And that might be one that the school systems might want to use as well once you show it to them. They'll think it's yours. And you'll be like, oh, thanks, Jessica. That's the best.
I wish I invented that.
So I know, isn't that cool? So there's a whole
That
bunch
is
of
very
stuff
cool.
on here, and it's multimedia. I clicked on the mystery of tornadoes, and I found this fascinating because as I went to it, hey, look who comes up here, Tim Samaras. So they've got him going
Aw.
through about 3 minutes and 47 seconds of talking about how tornadoes form. There's so many great things on there, you guys. I'm just really excited about that
That's
site.
cool.
That is SciJinks.gov, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on the left that you can actually click. All right, so isn't that neat?
Good job,
Yeah,
Matt.
That is very
Thanks.
cool.
Yeah.
Good
Every once in a
find.
while.
Good find.
I come up with stuff anyway. So you can, if you missed that or you missed the spelling or whatever, you can go to episode 77 show notes on stormfrontfreaks.com or on your podcast app on your phone, and you'll be getting all that information. Right, Phil?
That's right. Sounds good. All right. Well done. All right. Let's hit our freak fan box, MJ. What do we got in there?
Well, you know, I apparently I missed a few because I took it out, took the box out, I flipped it over and shook it, and a bunch fell out. So we're gonna talk about all those folks. We appreciate you checking.
It's like our elementary Valentine's Day boxes.
Right,
People
exactly.
slip in our freak fan box.
Little Billy didn't get one.
Nope.
Yeah.
But Parker Owens checked in a couple of times and said, "Great show tonight. Thanks for another great episode. And knowledge and comedy can't get much better than that if you want to listen to a podcast." We always thank Parker for his generous comments.
Thank you, Parker.
Wait, it's not even
That is
over
nice.
yet. How can he send that?
Well,
You could get real stupid. We don't have to.
Samantha B. Watson Baker checked in on Facebook. Love, love, love. I'm a weather freak myself. Perfect podcast for me. And a perfect
Nice.
podcast for you as well.
Yeah. Yes.
For sure.
I like it.
That means Jessica is now officially a freak. Right?
That is correct. That is correct.
A freak driving out and a pimp it. Yeah.
And
A freak in the beast.
I need another young folk out here.
And
Another Brady.
Oh, Morgan.
Lucas Robert O'Brien checked out too. Outstanding episode. Well done. So thank you, Lucas. For
Who is that? Lucas Robert O'Brien?
Lucas Robert O'Brien.
Wow.
Nice.
Yep.
Another
Sounds like
That's
he wants
cool.
these
Mhm.
affinities.
Yeah.
Another good
Yes,
Italian.
Finnegan.
I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lucas Robert O'Brien.
So that's our fan box check-ins for this episode. Thanks for doing that. You can check in with us on Twitter. We're at Stormfront Freak. You can check out facebook.com/Stormfront Freaks or do an email at questions@stormfrontfreaks.com.
Awesome. Lots of ways to reach out. I think this just about does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks podcast. Thanks for listening or watching. Before I reveal our next guest, if you enjoy our show, do us a favor and leave a great review on your podcast app. And don't forget to subscribe to the show by hitting that little podcast app subscribe button on your app. Works just like a magazine or newspaper subscription. It's free, and it assures you get the latest show delivered right to your podcast inbox the moment that gets released, and you get all these great Southern accents from Morgan. I do want to throw out a special shout out and thanks to our guest tonight, Jessica LaBelle. Thank you, Jessica.
Great job.
We had a great time with you on. And our next episode in 2 weeks, we're a bi-weekly program. We're going to be recording May 2nd with John Moss of the new Fantasy Weather Battle, which is a fantasy forecasting app that you can win money at. So you guys know fantasy baseball and football and same thing. But it's a forecasting app. You can throw some money down, and if you're one of the better forecasters, you can make money on this. So it'll be out.
Great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So we're gonna have him on talking about that. It's they just released their app recently. So if you'd like to watch the recording live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, check out our YouTube channel by searching Stormfront Freaks. So for MJ and Maz, Morgan, Kim, and Jessica, I'm going to go ahead and signal the all clear, and we'll catch you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Happy Easter.
Thank you for listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Find our bi-weekly show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Watch our shows on YouTube and Oklahoma Weather Tracker TV. For show notes, additional information about this episode, as well as past and upcoming shows, videos, photos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our live interactive Storm Chaser radar provided by our friends at zoomradar.com. If you would like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
Go ahead.
Hey, quick one. Jessica, do you know a Claire Petty?
I do.
Yes, she says hi. Just telling you.
Oh, I was at her
That'd
wedding
be-
last October.
That'd be really awkward if she said Claire Petty
I know.
Oh, no, she's one of my
while she's
closest.
watching.
Oh, I hate her.
Thanks for watching,
No, I
Claire.
love her.
Thanks for joining us.